Well, hello, all. Welcome, creatives, community, kind folks, and of course, classmates and collegiates. Thank you for joining me. Today is the first day of a week of when we get to talk about mysteries. Now, this channel is RPG with DBJ, and we pick a theme all week. This time is going to be mysteries in an extremely general sense. The handling the unknown in our tabletop RPG content. So we're going to talk about stealth and misinformation, disguises, just general lies and deceit, and that kind of thing. Handling many of those for our RPG adventures and as players and things of that nature. That's that general. Jader starts off with our demi-daily deep squirrels. I mean dives. Yeah, we get quite distracted. No, I think for the most part because we tend to be an excitable bunch, and sometimes we just begin to we sit around and we start to reminisce about things, and that is quite all right. So, but today, for those who don't know, um, there are each day we take this theme. So this week we're going to talk about mysteries in a very general sense, and each day we subdivide it into various subjects. So today is Monster Monday, and we get to talk about monsters, creatures, NPCs. It generally handling those non-player characters, whether sentient or animalistic. Very exotic or your average citizen, and how to handle them in the game. So today I thought we would start out by talking about the general sense of lies. And normally in our tabletop games, when we have information that the players want, they're going to investigate in some form of manner, whether the game is about investigation itself, whether you've picked a noir detective theme to layer over your role playing game, in truth, or whether as a subject matter. Sure, you could play Call of Cthulhu, which is all about delving into mysteries, or the player characters are trying to uncover some specificity to gain some kind of knowledge for them to gain to travel further into the story. But um, the idea thanks, Jader. Yeah, the idea here is that tag team squirrels. Absolutely. Oh man. Yeah, I bring these problems onto myself, man. I just do. But so for those who lastly, for those who are unfamiliar, we go live 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's my time. If you're just tuning in, we do go live this time. We also, of course, you can join in with the chat live. Just type in a comment, question, add to the dialogue. We love that interaction. But for those who wish to just have the audio, or they feel that it's a little bit more stable, please go over to Fantasy Grounds College Discord. Join the Discord. Go over to Fantasy Grounds College, and you will see our classroom down at the bottom. And you'll see the DBJ chat and DBJ's voice channel. You can go ahead, click on in, and you'll be able to get the voice from there. If you only wish to use Discord as well, you can type in a comment, any kind of a comment, question, add to the dialogue, and we will absolutely positively get to what you're saying. Hey man, Mythos Irvin, man, a long time no see from or hear from you, man. Thank you so much, and thank you very much for the super chat. Unnecessary, but I really appreciate it. It is a great way to show your appreciation. Although you just showing up after a long time is quite all right with me. Yeah. Jader says that mystery is an amazing tool for drawing players players to the game. Nothing hooks players more than a mystery that promises a revelation of items, power, or some sort of upper hand in the story. Absolutely. And oftentimes, Mythos' life's been crazy. It's all right. It, as long as we're able to carve out just a little bit of time for us to just take a deep breath and, decompress and whoosha, once we're able to do something like that, role-playing games, movies, books, whatever, music, are these things that allow us to separate ourselves from our problems in the world. And the problems don't go away. It's true, the problems will still be there, but maybe we can just get a new insight into handling it. If maybe it's just nothing more than having a greater sense of endurance and getting through it. Yeah, Mythos' Unknown Invaders is a great plot point. All right, so I do want to bring up one thing about the unknown and mysteries, especially with our NPCs, our big baddies, and the greater theme along this week I'd like to impose to everyone is the value of the unknown. One of the things we kind of hit upon last week in some of our other talks as well is that some of our greatest intellectual properties, greatest lines of graphic novels or books, movies, television shows, and things that we embrace, that we love, many of us find it that in hindsight, maybe we've learned a little bit too much about the background and the story and the information, and that too much knowledge and too much information can kind of become a barrier to getting into some of these intellectual properties and or experiencing that initial that initial joy we had when it was first revealed to us. Dead Man the Storyteller brings up doppelgangers and other shapeshifters. Absolutely. Mythos brings up the Avengers. In the Avengers, aliens attacking New York, and then Thanos, the real big bad behind it. Of course, absolutely. These are things where you can insert an adversary to the players, a danger. Usually, oftentimes, Pillar-ist says shapeshifters are my jam. Yeah, I had a murder mystery using a shapeshifter. They're awesome, and although we do find they're a little bit difficult to use in the RPG setting, because unfortunately it's a number of players and then we DMs or GMs or storytellers, right? And the minute we insert an NPC, the shopkeep with the attitude, the town guard who's very suspicious, the cloaked figure in the shadows who is intently watching the players and disappears down the alley. The first instinct amongst many players, and this is one of the bad things when we talk about metagaming, and metagaming isn't exactly a bad word, but this is one of those things where a lot of players, even veteran players, will start to think, well, if the dungeon master or the game master is inserting this NPC, they have to be evil or wrong or just straight up lying or something. It turns less into a real individual, and sometimes can turn into this is the person I need to rip open to find the next clue to keep the adventure going, as opposed to an individual that is just part of the world and may or may not have anything to do with the central plot. And I'm going to bring up a television show that lasted, I want to say 20 years, that here in the States, and it was called Law and Order. I'm going to get to the point on this. there's been many spinoffs from the show Law and Order Special Victims Unit, and and derivations thereof. But the one of the main points of the television show Law and Order, and it fully embraced the procedural, right? A number of investigators, they see a crime, usually a murder, 99% of the time, and they proceed to walk around the show for 40 to 45 minutes, questioning suspects, bringing that information back to their captain, and having a lawyer involved, and then trying to bring that individual to justice. And one of the issues with one common theme amongst 99% of those episodes is that everyone lies. Yeah, dung dung. Yeah, it had the most basic music for scene changes ever, and it would literally the show would literally drop you into and pull you out of a scene without preamble. They would just boom boom, and then two cops walking down the street, one of them eating a hot dog or something, and boom boom, in the next scene they've knocked on the door of a suspect living in a small tenement apartment or something, and then boom boom, they're back at the office talking about the clues they've gathered. But yeah, and Mythos says everybody lies, but not all lies are nefarious. Absolutely, and we can use that to our advantage when designing a mystery, because everybody lies, and most oftentimes than not, it has nothing to do with the actual plot of the story, right? There are individuals who have reasons, their own reasons, and a lot of times it's due to embarrassment. Yeah, Mythos says red herrings. Tesla Ranger says, I thought it was supposed to be a gavel. Maybe, I guess that thing. Pelor says, I don't lie ever. Exactly. Deadman says the sound is supposed to be a jail cell closing. I'm going to go with a jail cell closing. I would think the gavel's probably a little bit more of a regular sound, either one big sound or multiple sounds that are kind of an echo each other. Oh, Deadman says stated by one of the producers. See, wealth of knowledge thereof. But in that television show, these officers go around and they start questioning people, and they'll say, were you here at this particular time or date, or did you see something, or what did you have to do with this particular encounter? And Mythos' paradoxical statement, I always lie. Yeah, that's part of one of the riddles where you see a face and one face always lies, the other always tells the truth, and you have to ask them a question or pass by the location and get from them the truth about the answer and how you do it. We'll answer that at the very end of the show. But for those who are unfamiliar with that one, although you could probably do some Google foo and look it up, but the idea of everyone lying and using that as a tool is the fact that there are many reasons that people lie, and a lot of them are very mundane, but for themselves, it has a personal reason. So player characters must go into a local shop and start questioning the people that work there as to the where's the secret door into the dungeon, or people are going missing in the town and we need to find out why, Well, they start questioning everyone and they all lie about it. I wasn't here. I don't know what you're talking about, because reasons could be because they're having an affair with someone, or they're stealing coins. One out of every 20 copper pieces that passes through the lockbox, they steal and stash away because they're trying to buy a locket for someone that they have an attraction to, but they have an unrequited love or something. They're lying because there's someone that they've they're an escaped criminal and they've come home and they need to hide this person in their crawl space in their house because they've escaped the law or something. Yeah. Or Mythos says some could be to protect themselves in a Clark Kent lying in Smallville kind of thing, right? Maybe they are a vigilante of justice, and as a vigilante of justice, they're protecting their own identity or the identity of someone else who's a vigilante. I mean, there are any number of reasons, and it's strange to say this, but stacking the lies amongst your NPCs, it is a great way to get the players to scramble around to try to uncover, the old lady that's, very kind and sweet who bakes pastries for the PCs every time they come back from their deep adventure and they go to question her and she begins lying to them. There are some players that are immediately going to pull the dagger out and think she's a shapeshifter, right? But maybe she's just lying because she's been feeding a horde of orcs that have been living, in the mountain valley or something, and they appreciate her fruited pastries, and she just wants to make people happy and fill their tummies. And all along, she's been keeping this, orcish horde from taking over the countryside because they appreciate her pastries, right? I mean, again, it could be something silly or mundane or inconsequential or even oh man, yeah. Hey, Infinite says I tend to get those dagger wielding changelings slaying the players, of course. And oh man, uh, you guys are silly, but Mita says good example. Well, thank you. Yeah, there could be any number of reasons why your NPCs are deceptive in their manner. And it doesn't, and again, they don't have to be nefarious. They don't have to twirl the proverbial invisible mustache and rubbing their hands together and doing the little sinister laugh. 99% of your average citizen doesn't do that, right? Maybe the individual is just harboring a lot of hatred for the leadership of their community, and they're supporting another political figure, but they don't want anyone to know, or they have sent their child off to study magic at the a magic tower far away, but they're expected to send that child into the military or something. And like the Infinite Roleplay saying, I tend to weave complex webs of deception. It's a good thing to do this because there's always one more thing that's under the layer of information we need to know. Now, one hazard we can come across is too many red herrings, and the players latch on to the red herrings despite the fact they know it's not going to lead anywhere. It's almost the idea of having like a small pet, like a small dog or a cat or something, and they see you when you stick your hand under a sheet or a blanket or something, or you may tuck your head under a blanket, and they get obsessed trying to dig under it. The dogs that want to see your face, you cover your face. And yeah, if you have like Mythos is saying, if you have too many red herrings, they could latch on to these herrings and not find the path towards the story. And maybe I don't know if I want to answer it. We'll get into how to handle that tomorrow when the players are treading water when it comes to clues, and you have an adventure in front of them, but they're not following the pathway to get there because they're too busy smelling the flowers in and around themselves. Jader says it's very similar with other things in the game. Like when players fall into a pit trap, the rest of the game is I check for traps. Yeah. And believe you me, from the outset of the role-playing game, hey Scott, what's going on? From the role-playing history, that was a thing. The 10-foot pole, we check for traps everywhere. The follow-up to that was I roll perception everywhere. I make a spot check everywhere. And Yeah, uh, there's so many things we can play with that, but it's difficult as a GM to break them out of the yeah. Infinite role plays is I attack the darkness. Yeah, all the players trying to preempt preempt being backstabbed or preempt the thing in the darkness that's going to attack them. And some unfortunately, sometimes even out of game, you might have to pull everybody together and go, okay, guys, listen, relax. I'm not here to just kill you. I'm here to just tell you a story. And believe you me, trust me when I say that I am not going to nerf your character. I'm not going to just say, oh, you failed your save, everyone dies. Uh, establishing that trust up front and letting them know that they can trust you is a big thing. But also when your players start to do that, maybe there's something more to the story, right? Some of us have had terrible experiences at some role-playing game tables, and we think there's a mystery behind everything, because we don't want to be blindsided, we don't want to be surprised, we don't want to be snuck up on, we don't want to be backstabbed and such. And exactly, infinite role plays. I make no such promises, DBJ. Yeah. Pelora goes on to say, mine make their own red herrings. They get obsessed with one of the murder victim's children, yada, yada, yada. Yes. Sometimes it's by accident, very much by accident. You describe a room and you're like, oh, there's a tapestry and a chair, and, there's, I don't know, coffee mugs, and there's something on a mantle or whatever. And someone's like, chairs? Is there something with the chairs? And you're just like, there's nothing with the chairs. Does it look like the chairs have been pulled out from the table? Yeah, they scuffed the floor. There's scuffs on the floor. We've got to investigate the floor. And you're just like, don't, like, it's just a room. It's really, really odd. Yeah. Mitha says, my first DM put it to me this way secretly. The DM wants you to live, but death can happen. Exactly. Yeah, as the DM, as the person running the game, we really want the players to succeed. If I'm going to spend hours upon hours, weeks upon weeks developing a story, I really want my players to explore the entire world, because what's the point if they all die, right? So, okay, so what can we do? What types of NPCs and what kind of tools can we use to have our NPCs survive in our stories and really and have your players really embrace the fact that there are things they don't know. Roleplay says, seriously though, I had a player derail a session for almost 2 hours discovering a storm drain. Yeah. There we go. Sometimes that's a form of analysis paralysis. It's almost over analysis paralysis, and yeah, that could really derail a game. Strange though, a strange activity we have. I think it's because most of us are far more brilliant. We're far more intelligent than we deserve to be that play role-playing games, and we know the value of mysteries, and our desire is to always uncover even more information. Ali Hoop says, yeah, they run in blindly and get their asses handed to them on a silver platter. After that, they stop and make plans. That takes up most of the session. And by the way, don't play Shadowrun or Cyberpunk or something like that. Any kind of, well, Mythos, by the way, thank you very much for stopping by. I appreciate the super chat. It wasn't necessary, but thank you very much. I know you're showing me a ton of appreciation, and dude, have a good rest, go to sleep. but by the way, once again, thank you very much for stopping by. I'll always be here. But again, the over planning, the planning of the heist and whatnot. One thing is to reward players for uncovering little bits and pieces of mystery. Let them know that they're moving forward, that they are succeeding, that somehow they are uncovering yet one more thing about the NPC, right? Yet one more clue that's leading them further down the path. And one great way to do that is to untie the clues from the individuals that are involved in it, right? Alex, he says, new players are a different breed. They run in blindly. The first 30 minutes, it was a near TPK. Yeah, new players, it can be a little video game-ish, right? Oh, everything presented before me is the truth, so I'm going to run in, right? Yeah, man. Oh, if this says, yeah, the over planning. Sadly, never trying to find out info pertaining to the solution they're planning for. You're absolutely right. Infinite saying they gain experience for discoveries. And says, oh my God, that's why I like Dungeon World. Yeah. Also, Vince is saying, didn't we talk about this with the West Marches sandbox style game where information is king, discovering weaknesses of NPCs or spell secrets? Numenera is perfect for it. Numenera is a world in which, it literally you're stepping into the unknown, both as a game master and a player, and the world is a vast landscape of what the hell is that, right? You'd see, Jader says you can use a trick or a trap or betrayal to set up that paranoia, and then as a GM, you have to be ready to direct that nervous energy towards the important elements of the game. But that's the nature of these deep dives, working out the best tools to use at the table. Absolutely, and of course, it's not me imparting information to you, it's us imparting information together. For example, one of the best tools I've ever discovered is to not link information you need to impart to your players with specific locations or NPCs. So for example, maybe you have a town and you have, let's go extremely basic with this, very stereotypical. So you have yourself a tavern, a blacksmith, let's pick a curio shop, a magic shop, and you've written down, okay, the tavern owner knows one bit of information, the blacksmith knows the second part of information, and the magic shop knows the third part. Well, sometimes, for example, the players might see a small child in the street, or merchants bringing their produce into town, or any number of strange individuals, maybe the homeless person that's leaning against the wall, or the town pickpocket that the rogue discovers because they're a pickpocket too, right? Sometimes hoping your players speak to the right person may not be the right course of action. Maybe it's, well, if the PCs are drawn to this individual, allow that specific individual, no matter who they are, impart that information. Maybe the small child is an orphan and they're helping the town pickpocket, and the small child points to where the secret door is. Maybe the shop owner has the secret door in the back, and the PCs hear the squeak of the door, and the shop owner is very much like, no, there's nothing back there. There's nothing at all. Please do not look back there. There could be any number of reasons why a random NPC is able to impart the information to the players. So my suggestion would be to have a list of clues, a list of NPCs, but don't tie them together specifically, because Infinite Roleplay says, but I'm not a fan of the quantum ogre. Well, quantum ogring, I think, is it only hurts when the players understand it and see it. I understand that you may not be a fan of it, but then we get ourselves 2 hours of playing with, storm drains, right? I'm not saying that was your fault specifically, but I'm saying in general, sometimes we're folding our arms and we're just shaking our heads like, really? Are they really obsessed with this thing that has nothing to do with the main story? Whereas instead we can just put the story in front of them and be done with it, right? Yeah, Vince says, I like Numenera. It's a great world, even though the system itself is very basic, which also has its advantages. Yeah. Infinite Pro Play says, yeah, a type of I'm the type of crazy players that asks in character questions like, is there any dust behind that painting? Yeah. And the game master's just like, what? And of course they're thinking, if I answer yes, is this going to go down a rabbit hole? Vince says, I'm currently watching a great Korean game show called The Genius, which is basically a number of elaborate board games where betrayal and information are the most important aspects. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, Alex says, not every fight should be fought. Some of these situations is unwinnable. Best to get the info and get out. Yeah. Many times. I believe there's a game called a Gumshoe, and there are variations off of Gumshoe. And in Gumshoe, they take the point that in the game, the players will absolutely positively find the information. No questions about it. The whole idea is that it is a mystery. Players will find clues, period. It's how they go about finding the clues. It's the obstacles in the way of finding the clues. That's the situation, or the obstacles that happen after they find the clues. Sometimes questioning someone or finding the red dust behind that painting, or finding the scuff marks behind next to a wall that's a secret door. All those things lead further and should lead further into whatever happened, murder mystery, the shape changer, the scary spirit, or what have you. And of course we know that our long range NPCs and monsters and such, doppelgangers, shape changers, illusion type characters, the Rakshasas of the world, most of the fiendish beings are shapeshifters, although there are plenty of good ones. Silver dragons and gold dragons come to mind. Oni, ogre, magi, many others. I believe there's some other humanoid faced monsters that have shape changing or illusions. Hags, I believe, are a number of them, and they tend to be long term adversaries. And them being long term means that like Deadman brought up far earlier in our chat. Deadman says you could do the opposite of something such as being honest with a lying inflection in a voice, in terms of having someone being paranoid just by their inflections in their voice, even though they're telling the truth, and so on, so that others become the subject of investigation while the doppelganger is leaving little clues. Now, of course, you guys are talking about quantum ogering. Yeah. Been saying the quantum ogre is only a problem if you invoke a sense of permanency and then break it with quantum ogre situations. Infinite Roleplay says, with me, it's just a personal thing. I just don't enjoy using a quantum ogre, but I tend to really enjoy running the true sandbox games. Yeah, as well. So, and by the way, for descriptor of quantum ogre, quantum ogre sits somewhere between railroad and sandbox, and the idea is that you have an encounter, a situation, a piece of information, an individual, what have you, and you place that situation in front of the players no matter what their choices are. And the difference between a railroad, and the reason why it sits between a railroad and a sandbox, is because a quantum ogre doesn't predict the outcome. It only predicts the encounter. So a railroad would be that the outcome is predetermined no matter what the PCs do. So, for example, killer killer PCs are looking for escapes through window, right? That is an outcome that is predicted no matter what the players do. So players find the killer, they chase the killer around, they use spells against the killer, they try to entrap the killer, and you say, well, you don't find them, they automatically jump out the window. That's a railroad. A quantum ogre would be players go into basement, players go down dark alley, players leave town and go to another city, players make an encampment, players go into shop, and they see the dark hooded figure that is the killer out of the corner of their eye, right? So it's no matter where they go, the quantum ogre has the encounter. How they handle it is up to them. So maybe they chase them down, maybe they ignore them, maybe they surround this individual, maybe they let the killer go to follow them back to their nefarious lab or something like that, right? That's what a quantum what I describe as a quantum ogre. Jader says most people view Call of Cthulhu as a game about insanity and alien monsters, but really the best Call of Cthulhu games are games about a really interesting and spooky mystery, which I have to wholeheartedly co-sign on that one. If you really want to have a longer Call of Cthulhu campaign, it's very much more about the mystery rather than going insane and fighting alien monsters, right? Jader goes on to say, and a lot of the quality of the mystery is totally in the shoulders of the GM and how they convey the world in front of the players, which really comes to giving very interesting descriptions and drawing them into the world. And for me, I really think valuing player interaction into the world instead of being scared of it. It can be a scary thing when players start asking things like, is there dust behind the painting? Are there scuff marks on the floor? Is the person wearing the clothing, does it look like they can afford it? Are their shoes well worn? Or are they brand new? And you as a game master sitting back in your head panicking like, I wasn't prepared to answer those questions. What? And instead of doing that, embracing it and going, ooh, that's a really good question. Yeah, their boots are brand new. And in your head, you might be thinking, yeah, they're brand new because they stole them or they had to buy new boots because their other ones have that red dirt and dust on them, and being a fan of your players discovering the world as opposed to going like, oh man, they're going to discover my mystery, Vince says, Infinite says, yeah, but a quantum ogre also perpetrates the structure of a railroad and not sandbox. He says, but I think we're going to get a serious RPG philosophy debate. Maybe that could be a whole theory thing amongst itself, talking about the differences in our conflict between using that idea of the quantum ogre. Vince says, I think sometimes a quantum ogre makes sense even if you assume NPCs or enemies are intelligent and aware of the PCs, they would seek them out or search for them, making traps and change their locations and such. Yeah, Infinite Roleplay says, yeah, ask DBJ, I can go on for eons. That's kind of the point of this whole channel, man. Oh wow. Now, one Vince says, I think a true sandbox boring as hell. And I don't know. We can we can go down that deep dark path in many ways. Now let's get into some of our best and our favorite mystery NPCs and creatures and bad guys, right? You guys brought up the doppelganger. The doppelganger is such an amazing monster in no matter what setting, whether it's high fantasy, heck, low fantasy, alien invasion. Vince says the invisible stalker. Invisible stalker is a good one. Something that has no. Supposedly, the invisible stalker has no visible form to it. Some have described it as being pure air. Others, my headcanon makes it a creature that whoever touches it feels something different. Yeah, pillar-ist is about mind controlling beasties. Those body snatchers that can take over persons. Yeah, invasion of the body snatchers, knocking someone out and someone replaces them. Yeah, man. Monster Monday blinders. Yeah, yeah. Jader says solving the mystery too early can be a problem. Usually, once players know the answer, they direct themselves to killing the calls ASAP, which is disappointing as a GM, or worse, when they have arrived at the wrong answer. Yeah, um, that's why. You guys are silly. That's why I'm looking in the chat as well between Infinite and Vincent going back and forth. But I think that's why it's good for us to stack our mysteries together, because like Jader is saying, if we have, let's go real basic here. We have put a doppelganger in our game. This individual is our Jack the Ripper, right? There's murders happening in the town. PCs, we need you to find the murderer. And you have your descriptions, you've got your notes down, you want them to talk to like 5 different NPCs, you want a murder to happen, maybe you're planning on one of the PCs to be tackled in a dark alley when they're alone and be replaced by the doppelganger, and you have your note cards out to convince that player to play the doppelganger now, and one of the players just starts, raises their hand and goes, I think it's a doppelganger, and I'm pretty sure I know who it is, and you're just like, don't. Oh, right. You're like, I don't have anything else left. They already know who it is, and one of them has a spell that can easily find the doppelganger, right? Okay. I think this is where we can really value ourselves, like mysteries upon mysteries, lies upon deceptions stacked on top of each other. Have some of those red herrings, have some other nefarious thing going on top of what's going on with the doppelganger or whatever, so that if your players solve it, you know what, you're just gonna have to give them the slow clap. Just give them the slow clap, and yeah, you did it. You solved it in 5 minutes. Great. But what else is going on? Maybe the doppelganger is in league with another source of another faction or something. Maybe they are a rebel to a bigger scheme. Maybe the doppelganger is attempting to hide and escape other big baddies that are going after them. Maybe the doppelganger is just insane. It's some kind of psychopathic, sociopathic killer, and the real big bads want the doppelganger eliminated as soon as possible because their own nefarious deeds are drawing investigators like the PCs into town, and they didn't want this to draw attention to themselves and so on. So essentially just having another plot stacked on top of that one and a plot stacked on top of that one. For example, PCs are drawn into town to discover bad guy. Maybe there's a group of paladins that the leader of the paladins has known about the killer and wants the killer to not be discovered because it leaves them in a position of power to defend the town and the surrounding area from the evils in the world, right? Hey, no need to have you around if there's nothing to defend, to protect people against. Jader even says, who sent the doppelganger? What was doppelganger trying to do? Or plot twist, copycat killer the next day. Exactly. You catch the killer, everyone's like, yep, we're done, and then the exact same kind of murder happens yet again. And they're like, wait a minute, I thought we captured that person. Dead Man Storyteller says the second edition Invisible Stalker monster manual image. It's a blank area on the page is credited to the book writer. Yeah, I love the idea of the Invisible Stalker in the sense that, like, what is it? Like, it's got stats and it does a thing and it's invisible, but like, what is it? I've heard that it comes from the elemental plane of air. I've heard, again, my headcanon makes me think of something from mythology, and I don't know where from mythology, that it's permanently invisible and that it doesn't, it's a beast, but it doesn't quite have a shape to it. It just has claws and fangs and kills things, but you don't know how. It just causes claw marks to appear on you. Infinite says, what if his doppelganger was a schizophrenic changeling? Heck yeah. Um, Jader says the Invisible Stalker was physically described in a D&D novel somewhere, but it's not very inspiring. It's like a buggy looking humanoid. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I don't know why. I agree with you. For some reason, I remember a description of like a hairy bug-like thing. I don't know. Oh, Dead Man Storyteller says the air element aspect was canon starting in the third edition of the game. Oh, maybe that was it. Wow. Plur says the infinite potentially quantum chain of baddies. That's true. That's very much true. There's a bad guy behind my other bad guy with, you know what? There's another bad guy behind that one. And we could fall down that trap, right? If the chain of bad guys all have the same motivations to be behind the next bad guy, right? It could just, then your players are like rolling their eyes, like, whatever. Like, really? There's one person controlling this other bad guy. We've just gone through 8 of them, right? But if you change it up a little bit, I think it's all right. Yeah, Pelora says if they end up making the wrong decision, the murders or whatever are going to keep happening. Plus, you have the consequences of the mess up to play with, which I definitely agree. Of course, you have things to play with, like, who did the players offend during their investigations? Who did they piss off? What enemies did they make? What allies did they happen upon? The PCs could gain allies that they may not want to be allied with. Jader says it's far better to see them like some liquidish invisible creature. Yeah, I think so too. Infinite Roleplay says, what if an invisible stalker is not a monster so much as like a psychic plague, a shared insanity, death and horror spread by the collective subconscious fears of those that it infects. Now you're going to world building, dude. And oh, by the way, I'm stealing that as well. I'm still there, but I love that idea. There's some other ones. We also have the non-doppelganger shape changers. The silver dragons, the demons and devils, the fiends that are on Earth. Maybe a wizard or a lich, or I'm trying to think of some other rakshasas that are basically hiding amongst humanity to see that their evil plans are being dealt with. Vince says in a Witcher book, there was a story about a doppelganger-like creature taking over the life of a gnome merchant, and the story was about finding out what he traded the merchant's things for and where. I didn't know that. Now, I'm going to say something that's going to probably piss off a lot of players. And maybe dig into infinite role play a little bit. You could retcon one of your NPCs as a shape changer if you wanted to insert one that you hadn't done so before, such as a shop owner, a tavern owner, and the NPC that talks to themselves, it lives in town. You could have 1, 3, 18 adventures under your belt and go back and say, maybe this shop owner was a hidden big baddie. The PCs didn't know it. Now, the problem with doing that is like some of our favorite TV shows that have done this and done it pretty poorly, is that because you've retconned what was in existence, you didn't leave any clues that this individual or group of individuals is behind the thing. So doing a gotcha or an aha for the players is pretty bad, right? But if organically clues were left that organically this NPC looks like the bad guy or looks like someone that's trying to hide something, and there are clues that have been left behind inadvertently by yourself or even interpreted by your players, I think that's a good thing. But just going, aha, you 18 sessions in, you didn't even know this person was a doppelganger, just and doing that randomly, I think is a terrible thing. But it is a tool. You can go back and retcon some of the individuals, or maybe they're working, even if they're not shape changers, maybe someone's in league with a bad guy. Maybe they are gathering clues, or they're a spy for um, uh, a faction in another country in your world. They could be in league with a villainous individual who's using them to see through their eyes, or having them leave important information at a drop location or something like that. Infinite says, this is laugh out loud. It won't dig into me. I tend to layer stuff that deep anyway. Hashtag over prep GM. Now that's got to be a theme for a week. That's got to be one. The under prep versus over prep. I'm notoriously an under prepper, and uh, it's nipped me in the bud plenty of times. So I feel you on that fact. Yeah. Vince says, doing clues or foreshadowing in RPG sessions is super hard, in my opinion. They will start to investigate the thing as soon as they smell something, or ignore and forget the clue completely. Yeah. And remember, listen, we're game masters and dungeon masters, and we pretty much have to do this in a one and done, right? We don't write books. We're not script writers for movies. We're not writers for television shows. We don't make graphic novels. Um, all of that is done in writers' rooms well ahead of time. A writer can rewrite their book 1,000 times before it goes into publication. As a matter of fact, some of our favorite writers and creators have gone back and retconned their own information, um, to have it fit into a larger narrative. George R. R. Martin has said specifically he's gone back and retconned some of his own creations because he lost track of the time periods and dates and things like that. And other people have found out those times, and he's gone back and retconned them. Even Tolkien has even retconned the One Ring from between The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings series. First it was the Arkenstone, and then it was like, well, no, maybe the rings that has something to do with the big baddie, right? So don't feel bad if we're not experts at dropping specific clues at just the right time for them to be discovered to lead to the next thing. It's really hard. Pelora says, I tend to drop things from about 6 sessions out. They get forgotten most of the time, which is perfect, but remember when it bears fruit. And that's another thing too. It's sometimes it's not the clues they latch onto, but the clues they remember but have forgotten. And it's a little hard to find that, because on one hand, maybe just because we're critical of ourselves, we're like, you know what, I really meant to drop this clue, but they completely ignored it, which may not be the case. It's like watching one of your favorite, getting into one of your favorite intellectual properties. You read a clue, okay, it goes in the back of your subconscious. You forget about it. 3 chapters in, or 2 books in, or 5 episodes in, you go, oh, this goes back to that time when they said that thing. Wow. This isn't a mystery, but it goes back to it's the Happy at the end of Endgame talking to the daughter of Tony Stark and asking her, what would you like to eat? And she says, I'm hungry. I sure would like a cheeseburger, right? It's the I love you 3000 thing. It's reflecting back to an action that happened previously and going, oh yeah, that's a callback. Oh man, that's great. And callbacks are difficult to do. Good comedians do a tie in a callback really well. Well, I love you too there, Palora. I love you 4,000 TPJ. Well, I appreciate that, man. Oh, man. Uh, anyway, so Plura says I mainly role plays. Yeah, TV script writers often screw it all up. They sure do. Probably because they constantly hire and fire script writers who don't have the attachment to the callbacks. I'm assuming that's what it is. Well, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it. Plura says, I mainly do it so that everything feels tied together. I'll just drop in some small detail next to the important thing they're following, and then I can use it later, which is, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, that's a skill. That's a very difficult skill. No matter how easy you find it, the rest of us are sitting back like, yeah, me, yeah, no. Sometimes what we can do is pull on a theme. Let's say a theme like dragons. Let's pick something very common, dragons. And you could pull on the theme of it, make it very general. So maybe someone has a dragon tattoo. Haha, very much like the movie and book series. Maybe there's a dragon etched into when someone walks into the tavern known as the Lazy Dragon. Maybe they meet someone that is a dragon sorcerer or something, and so maybe there's a small child playing with a carved wooden dragon. So sometimes you can drop in themes, foreshadowed themes that lead to something else. And maybe one of the PCs is like when you finally have them confront that green dragon in the swamp, the PCs are like, oh, you've been telling us about this entire time. The guy with the dragon, the young girl that was tracing a dragon in the sand, the tapestry that had the warrior fighting the dragon. Oh man, I get it now. So you could do that as well. Yeah. Wow. Infinite says, research red t-shirt guy and BlizzCon. This was over a 6-month period. Sessions happening every week. Wow. Vince says Chekhov's gun. Just mention that thing hanging somewhere till the final battle. Absolutely. For those who don't know, I'm gonna butcher this terribly. So, Dead Man, the storyteller. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to do it. I'm gonna put up to you guys. Somebody put in the chat, either in the Discord chat or the YouTube chat, the descriptor of Chekhov's gun. I'm not going to pull up another window and look it up, but Chekhov's gun I'm not going to describe it, but I'm going to tell you that Chekhov's gun is a good literary tool that is used to foreshadow events and such. And there's a specific use for it, much like when we talk about MacGuffins and foreshadowing and such. Chekhov's gun is an idea that of having something and we flash back to that tells us that it will show up later. Specifically, not sure. Now, Dead Man Storyteller put in a Google search for Chekhov's gun right in the Discord chat. Let's see. Let's go in and see what it says. Do I want to do it? Yeah. Vince says Chekhov's gun is a dramatic principle that states that every element in the story must be necessary and irrelevant elements should be removed. Elements should not appear to make false promises by never coming into play. For example, Jader says, if you show a mounted gun above a fireplace or something, that gun must be used in the future or don't have the gun there in the first place. And how many action movies have we seen where we see a block of C4 or someone goes into a meat packing plant and there are hooks? We see that an invader goes into someone's home and we know that they have a gun hidden in a drawer or a safe. Later on in the show or the story, whatever, the action movie that happens in a meatpacking plant, someone's going to get thrown onto a hook, right? The gun in the drawer, we know that the invader in the house, when the family's running through the house, will go to the drawer to go for the gun. Now, a twist on the Chekhov's gun is that they go open the drawer or they open the safe and the gun isn't there. And then they look at it, and then maybe the killer has it, or maybe a small child hid it in their backpack, and they're like, I had it the whole time. Yeah, Vince says, or like the hero has some secret weapon just to just to never be used. Yeah. Plur, have a good one, man. We've already hit the hit the hour mark, and yeah, and love you too, man. It's great to have you here. We have hit the hour mark again. We do these long. This is long form. We're sitting around talking, sharing our digital pizza. It's all right, man. Yeah, you missed it a little bit. It's all right. Yeah, Infinite says, use Chekhov's gun to subvert expectations. Let the literary layering begin. Absolutely, absolutely. I didn't hear about the Area 51 storm. Now, if that ain't a squirrel, I don't know what is. But no, I didn't hear about that lately. Now, guys, we've hit the hour again. We're gonna sign out. We hit the hour mark. Please, we're going to continue this talk about mysteries and lies and deceit. We're even going to talk about like handling stealth and some of the issues that you just really cannot avoid in tabletop role-playing games and such. I will end this with oh, that's right. That's right. Vince says some idiots want to go to Area 51 thousands at the same time and uncover what's there. Yeah, and let one of them get shot, right? Yeah, it's crazy. Tesla Ranger says in the Discord chat, quote, if you say in the first chapter there is a rifle hanging on the wall, in the second or third chapter, it absolutely must go off. If it's not going to be fired, it shouldn't be hanging there. A trope namer Anton Chekhov from the S. Shuchin memoirs from 1911. You see how old that is. So essentially, if it's there, you got to use it, right? If there's a threat there, if you physically have it hanging there for whatever reason, you got to use it. So anyway, guys, we are signing out here. Thank you very much for joining me on these live chats. Again, tomorrow's going to be Discord Tuesday, World Building Wednesday, Third Pillar Thursday, one of my favorite, and of course, Future Friday. So, and again, if you prefer audio or you even want to find out more about Fantasy Grounds, please go over to Fantasy Grounds College. Fantasy Grounds College is free. And if you want to learn one of a number of virtual tabletops, this is a place where you can sign up for classes to teach you about the virtual tabletop programming and the vast larger community of Fantasy Grounds. So thank you very much, guys. Have a good one. I'll see you later.